Good day everyone, I'm Dr. Charito Villarico from Mababanaba Elementary School, San Jose East District, Division of Tarlac Province, Region 3, Philippines. I am a graduate of Doctor of Education, major in Educational Management at Pangasinan State University School of Advanced Studies. Presenting to you my dissertation entitled Organizational Climate and Productivity of School Principals in Region 3. School organizations with a strong orientation for continuous improvement usually possess distinctive competencies and innovative outlooks and a managerial vision and innovative organizational culture that aims to achieve the organizational vision, mission, goals, and objectives through operations. School climate has been described as the set of internal characteristics that distinguish one school from one another and influence the behaviors of each member of the school. It is described in terms of values, norms, and beliefs. These values, norms, and beliefs establish patterns and behaviors of students, teachers, administrators, and other staff. The resulting behaviors may promote or impede student achievement and distinguish one school from another. Extant literature suggested that positive organizational climate leads to higher levels of organizational commitment, which is an important concept in terms of employees' attitudes. Likewise, the concept or perceived organizational performance, which can be assumed as a mirror of actual performance. In the education sector, these are important matters to consider due to the fact that the service is delivered thoroughly by teachers to the learners and stakeholders. Therefore, attitudes and perceptions of the employees can influence how they deliver the service. While there is an ample evidence that a positive school climate promotes student achievement, specific strategies and practices to improve school climate and thereby improve the cognitive climate are absent in research literatures. There is a critical gap between what is known in educational research about the importance of a healthy climate and what is implemented at school sites. The main objective of this study is to determine the effect of organizational climate on the productivity of school principals in Region 3. For the specific objectives of this study, first is to establish the profile of the respondents in terms of age, sex, highest educational attainment, position, length of teaching experience, length of administrative experience, level of in-service trainings, and membership to organization. Another is to establish the profile of the school in terms of school size, number of faculty per school, teacher-to-pupil ratio, and facilities or equipment per school. Another is to determine the level of influence of school principal on organizational productivity in terms of their behavior and teachers' behavior. Next is to determine the extent of manifestation or organizational climate effects on the productivity of the respondents in terms of curriculum and instruction, leadership and governance, management and resources, and accountability to continuous improvement. Another one is to determine if there is a significant difference between the respondent's profile and the level of influence of school principals on organizational productivity and the extent of effect of organizational climate to the productivity of the respondents. Last is to craft and propose a development plan that will improve school management. This study tested in their null form the following hypotheses at the 0.05 level of significance. First, there is a significant difference between the level of influence of school principals on organizational productivity and the extent of effect of organizational climate to the productivity of the respondents. Next, there is a significant relationship between the level of influence of school principals on organizational productivity and the extent of manifestation of organizational climate effects on the productivity of the respondents. For the research design of this study, the study utilized the descriptive method of research. The respondents of this study were the 344 school heads or principals who were randomly selected from the 7 provincial divisions of Region 3. The study made use of a questionnaire checklist as main instrument in gathering the pertinent data. For the conduct of the study, permission at the Office of the Department of Education, Regional Director of Region 3, and the offices of the school's division superintendents of the division covered by this was sought. The researcher distributed the questionnaire checklist to the respondents and sought the help of division officials in retrieving the filed-out instruments. Data gathered from the respondents were treated with appropriate statistical tools. The profile of the respondents and the schools involved were determined using frequency counts and percent. The level of influence of school principals on organizational productivity and the extent of manifestation of organizational effects on the productivity of the respondents were determined using average weighted mean. For the findings of the study on profile of the school principals, it is found out that majority of the school principals in Region 3 are belong to the middle age and old age. Most of them are female and have completed their master's and doctoral degrees. They have been school principals for 10 years and below and have attended trainings and are members of professional organization. For facilities and equipment, it is found out that school facilities like comfort rooms and washing area were not enough to the total numbers of learners in every school. Functional ICT equipment were not also sufficient. Some schools are still left behind with regards to technology. For the findings of the study on the level of influence of school principals on organizational productivity in terms of their behavior, it is found out that leadership of the school principal greatly affect the behavior of the teachers in the organization. The effectiveness of any school organization depends greatly on the ability of the school administrator to create, direct, maintain, and operate purposive actions through coordinated, cooperative human effort. And for the findings of the study for the level of influence of school principals on organizational productivity in terms of teachers' behavior, it is found out that school principals highly influence organizational productivity in terms of teachers' behavior. For the findings of the study, for extent of manifestation of organizational climate effects on the productivity of the school principals under curriculum and instruction, the overall ratings of the respondents, which is 4.68, indicates that organizational climate effect on their productivity is very much manifested in terms of this aspect. And for leadership and governance, along this aspect, the effect of organizational climate on the productivity of the school principals is very highly manifested as evidenced by the overall mean of their ratings in all the indicators. And for management and resources, as evidenced by the overall mean of the ratings of the respondents in all the indicators, the effect of organizational climate on the productivity of school principals is very highly manifested. For the findings for accountability and continuous improvement, the effect of organizational climate on the school principal's productivity in terms of this aspect is very highly manifested, as shown by the overall mean of the respondents' ratings in all indicators. As a whole, the effect of organizational climate on the school principal's productivity is very highly manifested as indicated by the computed grand mean. Findings on the comparison of the school principal's profile and their level of influence on organization's productivity, it is found out that the level of influence of school principals on the organization's productivity does not differ significantly across their profile variables as shown by the significance or p-values of the computed F where are lower than 0.05. Findings indicate that the profile variables age, sex, highest educational attainment, position, length of teaching service, length of administrative service, length of in-service trainings, and membership to organizations do not affect significantly their level of influence on organizations' productivity. And for the findings for the relationship between the level of influence of school principals on organizations' productivity and extent of manifestation of organizational climate effects on productivity, it is found out that the values indicate that the level of influence of school principals on organizational productivity is significantly related to the extent of manifestation of organizational climate effects on their productivity. Based from the findings of the study, the researcher proposed a development plan for school management improvement and sustaining positive organizational climate. This is the proposed development plan for school management improvement and sustaining positive organizational climate. Based from the findings of this study, the following conclusions were arrived at. First, majority of the school principals in Region 3 are middle-aged or belonging to the so-called Gen X. They are female-dominated, predominantly hold Principal 1 position for almost 10 years, and have attended trainings. Next is school facilities like comfort rooms and washing areas are not enough to the total number of learners in every school. Another conclusion is that the school principal's behavior influences organizational productivity, and organizational climate affects the school principal's productivity. Based from the findings and conclusions, the researcher recommends that, first, higher authorities may encourage school principals to continuously grow professionally and become members of professional organizations. Second is the school administrators may allocate a certain amount for the purchase of online or virtual learning platforms for teachers and learners. Next is school administrators may request from the higher authorities additional teachers to meet the ideal size of classes. And last is future researchers may conduct a similar study along this line in different settings considering other variables not included in this study. That's all for my presentation on my research entitled Organizational Climate and Productivity for School Principals in Region 3. Thank you and God bless us all.